It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of A Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with Your Personal Bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to Your Personal Bank Show. And hey, I just want to put a little quick shout out. I'm going to really encourage those of you that missed Tuesday's show, go to yourpersonalbank.com. I really talked a lot about if you're looking for income, dividend-paying, interest-bearing type accounts and looking for a good rate of return, you really want to go back and listen to Tuesday's show. Again, I referred to a number of articles and stuff talking about, bonds, high dividend-paying stocks, things like that. And, they're talking about the dividend aristocrats paying somewhere, and using examples of, Walmart and Coca-Cola and things like that, paying somewhere between 1% and 3% dividends range. We have high dividend-paying insurance policies that paid 6% the last 25 years, plus never missed a dividend since before the Civil War. If you're looking for that kind of thing to supplement your retirement, do yourself a favor. Contact us at yourpersonalbank.com. We'll show you the charts, the history of all the different top dividend-paying companies, and you'll see immediately it'll become abundantly obvious where you want to put your money, because get a better rate of return on it. Get a higher dividend. Why not look into it? Run the numbers. Compare. Again, yourpersonalbank.com. Check it out. But what I want to talk about today is another article I found, and I thought was really, and it was quite good. Actually, I was quite impressed, and we're seeing more positive press about the insurance policies and contracts and how they work and the rates and stuff, because again, word is starting to get out a little bit, and that's very encouraging. Again, the number one response I get from folks, two top things I get, particularly from many radio listeners when I do talk to them. They reach out to me, and a lot of you have been reaching out, so I really appreciate it. It's been fun. It's been awesome. Is they're surprised by the fact that there's companies been paying 6% dividends for 25 years plus. The fact they weren't even aware of it is frankly frustrating. It means nobody even deemed to share the information, and that's the financial industry's fault, okay? And the insurance companies should do a better job of advertising what they're doing, to be honest with you. And they don't. They do a very poor job of it, in my opinion. But anyway, it's a fact. That's why they're just quietly paying dividends. And these are name brand companies, you and I, we all know, billions of dollars reserves, over 100 years in the business, all this stuff, okay? Anyway, my point is, and then you bringing the bank line of credit, that's also starting to gain some traction. That's an idea that even fewer people are aware of, that you can get the 6% dividend, like I said, and then turn around and access the funds through the bank line of credit and get the funds in the threes, between 3 and 3.95 is the range currently, and pick up the positive arbitrage, pick up the difference. And by the way, the positive arbitrage of these policies this is another point I get, well, what about, right now it's working because of the low interest rate environment. Yes, of course. What about a higher interest, what about a normal interest rate environment or a higher one? Well, it works then too. Here's why. When I show you the charts and the history, you see immediately before 0809, before this extremely low interest rate environment occurred, all the companies were paying in the range of 7-8%, more in what we would consider more of a normal interest rate environment. Look, if the cost of borrowing goes up, instead of being in the threes, let's say it's in the fives, but now you're earning 7-8 like they were back then, you're still picking up 2 or 3% positive arbitrage, aren't you? In other words, you're earning more than it costs you to access the funds. So my point is simple. And in a higher interest rate environment, if you go back even further when things were even higher, you have the same type situation. The policies we're earning are getting credited more with any of the good companies, basically, almost nearly every year, more than it costs to access the funds. Most cases, we were looking at most years 2-3% positive arbitrage. Low interest rate environment, normal, and high interest rate environments, it works. It's just historically been shown to work. And this hasn't worked over a few years. We're talking over decades and decades. I mean, literally over 100 years of successfully working. Okay? So this is not a new idea, and that's the other part of it is, and even in the bank line of credit part's not a new idea. I was this morning talking to one of the senior VPs at one of the banks. He stated to me, he goes, last week, actually, I talked to him on a regular basis, but they were talking about, they got about $300-400 million of these loans on the bank books. This is one bank, by the way, one local community bank. And they were looking to, I think, add something like, he said, close to 100 million of new loans this year, of these types of loans, lines of credit, I should say. And their business has tripled since COVID. And he attributed partly because the economy's changed, people are looking more safer options, of course. And part of it he attributed to this radio show. I did an interview with Brandon Miller back in April, and if you missed it, you can go to yourpersonalbank.com and listen. By the way, they're coming out. They're out of Chicago. And him and the bank president are coming in studio in November. Looking forward to it. And I'll be interviewing them again. So stay tuned for that. My point is their business has tripled. I talked to one of the other banks who has over $2 billion, with a B, dollars of these loans on the books. They've been doing this over 25 years. Significant increase in number of lines of credit they've been setting up because the word is getting out. People are realizing, wait a minute. I've got cash value in these policies, or I can build cash value in these policies and earn a nice dividend rate. Like I've said repeatedly, you can get 6% today. Been paying that for the last 25 years plus, okay? Long-term history. And I can access the funds in the threes. So when I do need the money, I still make money, okay? So this is booming, okay? That's what I want you to understand. But I like this article. I kind of got off track a bit, and I wanted to get back to this article. I was talking about some of the negative connotations that still, unfortunately, persist out there. And this article, this is from Think Advisor, and I like the title of the article. He says, yes, Virginia, whole life insurance is worth it. And he's talking about, he's debunking a negative article, and there's so many, I don't even give him credit, where the comment was, instead of pouring money into a whole life policy and hoping it pays off, I'd much rather put more money in my own hands. That way I can continue saving cash, maximizing out retirement accounts, and investing in real estate. Here's the thing. The person doesn't understand what they're talking about. Because first of all, if you want to save cash, there's nothing, cash value growth, compound interest, powerful over time. Maxing out retirement accounts, well, you can do that. Not saying you shouldn't, but you got tax consequences with those. Many people, many CPAs and stuff, have called those tax hostile in retirement, where you got to pay taxes on 100%, right? Why not consider a tax-free option, or at least for some of the money? I've run into this so many times, it's ridiculous, where somebody has done this, where basically they maxed out all their retirement accounts, their IRA, 401k type of things, traditional, and basically painted themselves in a corner. Now they're nearing retirement or in retirement, and pretty much most, if not all, the money is in tax-deferred IRA 401ks. And now they start taking it out, and they're getting creamed on taxes because everything is 100% taxable. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told this by clients where they'll say, if I had no idea if it would work, if I had known it was going to work like this, I would have never done it. Now, I don't know if they should have never done it, but what I do know is they should have given themselves an option. In other words, some of the money should have gone into a tax-free option. It's part of the reason why Roths are so popular, because, again, Roths are the opposite. You pay the tax up front, it grows tax-free. So do life insurance. In other words, most advisors recommend having some of both. Why not consider this as an option for part of that, some of both? Stay tuned in the next segment. We're going to talk about some more of these misconceptions and some average rate of returns. You're going to be surprised, so stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
All right, welcome back. We're talking about a lot of stuff today. But like I said, I was talking a lot about income and dividend paying stuff and things like that. And like I said, particularly in the last show. So if you missed it, Tuesday show, go to yourpersonalbank.com, check it out. 6% dividends, check it out. Just consider it, run the numbers, see if you're looking to supplement in retirement, get dividend paying, interest bearing type of assets, you really need to look into this. So yourpersonalbank.com. Be happy to talk to you about it. But this other article, like I said, it's talking about it's from Think Advisor. Title of it is, Yes, Virginia, Whole Life Insurance is Worth It. Debunking some of the common negative perceptions that still persist, sadly. Talk about, this person wants to save cash, max out retirement accounts, invest in real estate. Okay, saving cash, great place to save cash is in a personal bank policy, and pick up a 6% dividend, and pick up positive arbitrage when you access the funds through the bank line. Okay, so if you don't do that, you're missing out on the 2 or 3% extra positive arbitrage you could be getting. Just missing out, flat out. Compound over a lifetime, holy cow, that's a lot of money. Secondly, maxing out retirement accounts. Okay, I'm not against that necessarily, but if that's all you're going to do, you're going to paint yourself in a corner, likely, like I find a lot of my clients do, where most, if not all of their funds now, when they getting into retirement or are retired, now they access the funds and 100% taxable, and they're getting creamed on taxes, and they're fully subject to the whims of whatever the tax rates are going to be. Can you tell me what tax rates are going to be 5 or 10 or 20 years from now? Of course not. It's impossible to tell. And this person, I would refer to them, they should read this book. They should read the book called The Power of Zero by David Barton. The very powerful book. I've had a number of Money Radio listeners read that book, by the way. And it's kind of funny, interesting, how many of them, they'll contact me. They'll reach out, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com. And they'll say, read the book, read The Power of Zero. We need to talk. Because they realize immediately after reading some of that book how if most, if not all of your money is in an IRA, 401k, traditional, you've painted yourself into a corner and you've made yourself totally subject to the whims of Congress and the IRS and tax rates. Because whatever the tax brackets and rates happen to be going forward, you're going to pay them. Because you're going to supplement retirement from those accounts, either because you need to supplement retirement or eventually you get forced to through required minimum distributions. And you're going to be forced to pay whatever tax rate is out there. And again, with the government debt, where it is and what's going to happen in the future, can you tell me where the tax rates are going to be in the future? No one can. And are you willing to take that risk? And that's what it boils down to. And the premise of the book is, look, if tax rates increase in the future, let's say they double. By the way, could they? Sure, it's been that way before, more than that, just so you know, historically. But 2 times 0 is still 0, isn't it? In other words, have some of your money in a tax-free option. Now, Roth IRAs, a lot of people use those, but there are a lot of limitations on how much you can put in, or if you convert, then there's a lot of taxes involved there, okay? My opinion for many folks is a better option is the personal bank, the high cash value policy. It's a tax-free option that's not explored nearly as often as it should be, in my opinion. And you can create that second bucket of money. Here's the thing. If you've got 2 buckets of money, one is fully taxable. Let's say it's a traditional qualified account, IRA, 401k type of thing. And you have another account, like a policy, where it's completely tax-free when you access it. Income tax-free. Can you choose how much you access from within reason, from each bucket? In other words, can you determine, kind of dictate what your tax bracket's going to be each year? And can you adjust that based on future income tax law changes? The answer is yes. Did you open up some options? And the answer is absolutely. If you've already painted yourself in that corner, we still should talk. There's some advanced planning things we can do to help you. And like I said, I can't go into all the detail on that here with the radio show. It's just not enough time. But there are options. So contact me at yourpersonalbank.com if you've already painted yourself into that tax corner. But if you haven't, in our industry, the IRAs, 401ks, and such are known as ticking tax time bombs. I'm not saying they're a bad thing. What I'm saying is understand when that tax bomb blows up on you, do you have a plan? Do you have an option? And if you don't, you're asking for trouble. You're painting yourself in a corner, okay? So the other thing is, like I said, I'm getting a little off track here, but the point is, like I said, the sad fact, like I said in this article, talks about how erroneous information about how it works. First of all, it's safe. There's guarantees. And so the whole point about they didn't want to put their money at risk or whatever, well, this is a great place to put it, not at risk. Let me talk about this and invest in real estate. That is a great option for many people and not for others. Some people love real estate. Others don't want to deal with it. But I deal with a lot of real estate investors. In fact, a couple of days ago, I did a meeting for a mastermind group, a roundtable of key leaders of a large real estate investor group. I work with a lot of real estate investors. They're one of the first ones that recognized and used, and most often commonly used, the personal bank concept over the years, decades even. And they immediately recognize it. I have fun talking to and working with real estate investors, and I've spoken to and been the keynote speaker for over the last 5, 6, 7 years for a number of the largest real estate investor groups, literally in Seattle, LA, Vegas, Denver, Phoenix, okay? I mean, we're talking Chicago. Hundreds of real estate investors at one point have attended my I've had hundreds at one event, okay? I've talked to thousands of real estate investors over the years. And here's the thing, real estate investors understand, entrepreneurs typically understand, is positive arbitrage. They immediately understand it, they get it, because they use leverage to buy real estate typically. When you buy a piece of property, in most cases, unless you're paying cash, okay, most people get a mortgage, right? When they purchase a property, whether it's your own home or an investment property. And if you use a traditional conservative financing where you put 20% down and you borrow the 80% remaining, right? You're leveraging your money 5-to-1, right? So if you buy $1 million property, for example, and you put $200,000 down, you use $200,000 of your money to take control of $1 million asset. You're leveraging your money 5-to-1. Okay, that's the premise, one of the basic premises of real estate investing. And as that asset increases in value, okay, you can get a multiple because of return, because your money, you've leveraged it 5-to-1. You're using the bank's money for the other, the rest of it. When I talk about positive arbitrage, so when this person says, I want to invest in real estate, I tell real estate investors all the time, one of the best things you can do is fund your money into a personal bank policy, then turn around and access it from the bank line of credit and pick up 2 or 3% positive arbitrage. I shared this 2 days ago with this group. Oh my gosh, I had to calm them down, okay, so I could get to the rest of the specifics, some information I needed to share with them. They get so excited. That's why it's fun to work with them. Okay, because they get it, it clicks, they get it immediately in most cases. So as my point I made to them and I make to folks all the time is simple. Let's assume you have a 10% rate of return on your investment. I don't care what it is, real estate, market, business, or any other asset. I don't really care what that is. Let's say your rate of return is 10% average. Well, if you flow it through the personal bank, you put the money into the policy, you turn around, borrow it from the bank line of credit, and pick up 2 or 3% positive arbitrage, and then invest in your asset investment, you're now making 12 or 13. See, that's where some people kind of lose it. And I'm going to get into, if they lose it, that's where they lose it. It's not you're making 2 or 3% or 6% dividends. You're getting an extra 2 or 3% on top of. It's like icing on the cake. I'm going to go into that in further detail in the next segment, so stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
All right, welcome back. We've been talking about a lot of great stuff today. I've been particularly referring to this article, which I think is a great one. It's from Think Advisor. Title article is Yes, Virginia, Whole Life Insurance is Worth It. I'm going to post it on yourpersonalbank.com, our website, so you can check it out, pass it on, whatever. But he's debunking some of the common misconceptions that frankly still persist about these policies. These are high dividend payers, 6% dividends over the last 25 years plus, never missed dividends since before the Civil War. There's guarantees, there's safety involved, there's tax benefits involved. So when this person said, I want to continue saving cash, maxing out retirement accounts, investing in real estate, they're missing the whole point. The personal bank concept could help them on all three of those points. help them save more cash and get 6% dividends on those. They can max out the retirement accounts. Okay, fine, but then they're creating a tax hostile account in retirement. In other words, 100% of that money will be taxable. Can you tell me what the tax rates are going to be in the future? 5, 10, 20 years from now, or when you retire? The answer is, of course, no. This person needs to read a book called The Power of Zero by David Barton, and that'll wake them up to the fact that if you do that, you put yourself at risk, future tax risk, and that the whim of Congress of whatever tax rates they decide to impose upon us, brackets, rates, whatever, and with the government debt the way it is right now, I don't know if that's a risk you want to take. That's your decision. But to put it all in that bucket, all into that tax deferred bucket, and then have to pay taxes. And I'm talking about traditional IRA 401ks, by the way. Put it all there and then hope it works out later. Not a good plan, typically. And then invest in real estate. I work with hundreds of real estate investors, and real estate investors are some of the first and most common people that use the personal bank concept. Probably use it among the biggest. Entrepreneurs are probably second. And real estate investors are a type of entrepreneur. But the reality is they understand positive arbitrage. And they understand if you put money into a policy and then you turn around and access it through a bank line of credit and you're picking up 6% gain and you get charged in the threes, you're picking up 2 or 3% positive arbitrage on your investments. What does that mean? If you have a 10% rate of return, if it's in the markets, if it's in real estate or any other asset for that matter, and you pick up an extra 2 or 3% on top of it as icing, gravy on top of it, you just increased your rate of return by 20, 30%. Folks, that's huge. That's a huge increase of rate of return. And you multiply that over a number of years, get out of the way. In other words, I think I could safely say that if you were considering investing in 2 different portfolios, and most of you listening have done this, you're looking at working with this advisor versus that advisor, or this portfolio versus that portfolio, or you're looking at this asset versus that asset, right? And pretty much everything's equal. The amount of the investment and the rate, the risk level, all those things, everything is basically equal. And you believe with a fair amount of certainty that one investment is going to get you a 7% rate of return. The other is going to average you a 9% rate of return. Which one are you going to do? I mean, it's obvious. What I'm saying is keep doing what you're doing. If you're doing something that's working and is making a return, then keep doing it. All I'm saying is add one step to it and enhance it. Instead of taking your dollars and investing directly into that asset, why not put them into a policy, turn around, access the funds from the bank line of credit, and pick up an extra 2 or 3%? Why not? Right? Folks have been doing this for like 100 years, okay? Anyway, but here's the other point I like to bring up, and I often get, I've been challenged on this before, we'll just say that, and then been proven right also, so it's kind of interesting. But this article goes on and talks about risk tolerance and all those kinds of things. What is the risk for the investor, and various things like that, which is great. You know, we can remove or reduce risk for folks, which is also excellent. But they're talking about rate of return. That's another one of the big ones I get. Rate of return on these dividend-paying policies, as I've stated multiple times, 6% over the last 25 years plus. That's the fixed option. There's an index option. It's based on the S&P 500. And basically, it's quite simple. Some people try to make it complicated, but it's not. It's quite simple. It has a floor and a cap. The floor is 1%. The cap is 14. You make somewhere between 1 and 14 each year based on what the S&P 500 does. Is that hard to understand? Is that complicated? No. It's that simple. You get that credit. So the market goes up more than 14, you get 14. If the market drops, does nothing or drops, you get 1. It's that simple. The historical average over the last 25 years is 8.5%. By the way, that's tax deferred, and if we set it up correctly, you can access it tax-free. So guess what? You now have an 8.5% average rate of return for the last 25 years, tax-free. Income tax-free. let's be honest. How many people, you're listening to me right now, how many of you would be satisfied with an 8.5% tax-free rate of return with no downside market risk? I think the answer would be a lot. This is exactly what we're talking about. Okay? That's what your personal bank does. Oh, by the way, we can add one more benefit to you there. What if you could then access the funds from it? Remember, when you withdraw money from an account, you stop earning on it, right? Because you spend it. When you withdraw, you take it out and spend it, it's gone, right? What about here? Instead, you access it from the bank line of credit, again, in the 3s, and your average, let's assume your average rate of return is at 8.5. In other words, you're picking up the difference. You keep the difference. In other words, you're making an extra you're still making 4 or 5% on your money that you spent. How many people would like that? Millions of people are doing it every day as we speak. You just need to look at it and run the numbers and see how it would work for you. You're missing out if you don't look at it. Contact me, yourpersonalbank.com. I'll show you. But here's what this article says, and I love this. So it pointed out, in 2017, Fidelity analyzed 22,000 retirement plans. Now, and they looked at the previous 10-year period. So we're looking at a period of 2007 to 2017. Now, think about that. Remember, go back. Was the markets, would you say overall, from 2007 to 17, were they good or were they bad? The answer is, in terms of returns, the answer is, starting in 2008 at least, we had the longest bull market in history. That's a statistical fact. One of the highest increasing markets in history, also a statistical fact. So if you take that 10-year period that Fidelity took, 9 of the 10 years were part of the biggest and longest bull market in history. What was the average rate of return, the 10-year median annual return for those investors before tax? The answer is 5.8%. If Fidelity investors pretty much in the largest, longest bull market in history were averaging 5.8 before tax, again, many of these, like they said, many of these were in IRAs and 401ks. That means probably 15, 25, 33% federal rate. Stayed on top of that in many cases. So say somewhere between 20 to 40% range, state and federal, would be taxable if it was an IRA 401k. But the average was 5.8. I thought, and we're looking at 6% dividends with guarantees and tax-free. How does that not compare? Or an index, 1 to 14 with an 8.5% average, tax-free. How does that not compare favorably? By the way, I'll talk about in the next segment even further information on that. Like I said, folks, these are the numbers. These are the facts. So stay tuned.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back. We're rounding third, and I'll tell you what, I've been sharing some information that, well, sometimes people don't like to hear, but it's the facts. So this is from Think Advisor. This is a great article, and says, the title of the article is, Yes, Virginia, Whole Life Insurance is Worth It. We'll post this, debunking some of the common misconceptions that is out there. Sadly, still persist, but we're working on debunking those. And they go into why it's worth it, and the dividends, the safety, and the tax benefits, and all this good stuff. But they point out in here, talking about risk and speculation and all those kinds of things. And I stated in the last segment, if you missed it, go to yourpersonalbank.com. But it talked about in 2017, Fidelity analyzed 22,000 retirement plans, and the average rate of return, understand, 9 of the 10 years was part of it. The longest, one of the strongest bull markets in history, which is a statistical fact, the average rate of return before tax was 5.8%. So you're running a huge bull market before tax, 5.8. We're talking about 6% dividends, tax-free, with guarantees and without market risk. How does that compare? How does that not compare favorably? You're looking at 5.8 with market risk, with taxes, versus 6% without market risk and no taxes. You see what I'm trying to say? And if you want a greater return, well, we can set you up with the index option with the S&P, where you make 1 to 14% per year with an 8.5% average over the last 25 years, by the way. Again, we can set it up tax-free. How does that not compare favorably? And the answer is it does. Tremendously so. But the story even gets worse, because the Dalbar study. Now, the Dalbar study is an independent third-party statistical research firm. They've been doing this study for literally like the past 30 years, and they come out their report each year. And as they pointed out, over the last 20 years, the average equity mutual fund investor after fees has averaged 3.88%. See, this is this kind of stuff where we hear about investors expect to earn 7, 8, 10, 12%. I had somebody talk to last week. They're saying, well, I can't wait till I have enough money so I can make those 12% returns. I'm like, good luck. You might make them in a specific year or two, but historically or over a period of time, okay, that's not what the statistics and the facts show. And, 3-4% is actually a more realistic expectation. 5.8 is what the Fidelity investors got during a huge bull market. Dalbar talks about 3.88 consistently over the last 20 years when you take it out over a 20-year period, okay? I've had people argue with me. I've had people challenge. See, that the whole 7-8% thing has become such a mantra out there that people believe it. It's kind of like, it's been often said, if somebody hears something over and over again, it becomes, I think Joseph Goebbels said that, it becomes fact. I even have one client who was a CFO of a 401k management company. They weren't the ones that sold the 401ks. They managed them. They were the fiduciary, the third party. And he was in one of my workshops where I shared this information, this statistical information. He got so upset he left early the workshop. And Monday literally called me. This was like 3-4 years ago. Called me and he said, Ference, when you said 3.88, I was mad. And I would have sworn up and down that it was the average rate of return on our 401k investors was 7-8%, because that's all I've ever heard. Understand, this is the CFO of the company for the past 15 plus years. He said, I looked it up. I pulled the numbers. He says, Ference, do you know what the average rate of return was for our investors? It was 1/10 of a point difference. He has 4 of these personal bank policies himself, and we're in the process next month setting up another 5th one. Why not get 6% guaranteed, or a 1% floor, 14% cap on the S&P 500 with an 8.5% average over the last 25 years, tax-free, rather than taking market risk and averaging, 3, 4, 5%, which is the statistical averages of what's actually happening? Not listening to nothing against your advisor, but that's what they're all taught to say that, aren't they? We're taught to say, I've heard the same mantra, okay? We're taught to say that when we talk to people. But if you look at the actual statistics, and you not 1 or 2 years, you look at over 10 years, over 20 years, and you get these 3 and 5% type numbers. Okay? That's the facts. Why not look at something where the facts are they've been paying 6% dividends for the last 25 years, and you can set it up tax-free? Or the facts are you can put in an S&P index fund, you can put in an index and not lose in the bad years and make up to 14% in the good years, and it's average 8.5% over the last 25 years, which is the facts. That's where, I get frustrated sometimes when I hear this stuff and I recognize reality, and I see statements every day. I've been doing this for 22 years, right? I see client statements, and they're not performing as they expected or what they were told or what they were thought. And the reality is they're more in line to what 9 times out of 10, that's exactly it. You might have the outlier on occasion, but it's pretty rare, I'm going to tell you. Why not consider another option where you know what you're going to get, you have some guarantees, you have some tax benefits, you get some positive arbitrage, and don't be so surprised that there are other options out there. Just because you haven't heard about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, doesn't mean it's not valuable, and doesn't mean it doesn't work, because this option has been working for decades and decades and decades. In fact, last week, if you missed it, go to yourpersonalbank.com and listen to some of last week's shows where I literally talked about some famous examples of how this worked for people like Walt Disney, Bob Hope, Sam Walton, and others. J.C. Penney. I'm talking about examples that go back nearly 100 years in some cases, and some that are much more recent, like Jim Harbaugh, head coach of Michigan. My point is simple. It was working 100 years ago. It's working today. The companies are paying 6% dividends today. Why bother with 3 to 5% historical average returns with market risk? Or why bother with dividend-paying stocks that are, yes, they increase every year, but in the 1 to 3% range? Or why bother with bonds where, frankly, these days the rates are really low? Why bother with annuities even if you don't have to? And I like annuities. Don't get me wrong. I like all of these things. But the rates on the annuities are lower because of the interest rate environment, and you can only take out 10% a year in most cases. Why not have access to the majority of your money when you need it? Why not have it, instead of being taxable or tax deferred like an IRA, 401k, or annuity, or why not go tax free? Why not have some guarantees and some safety? You know what? While we're talking about that, why not have some living benefits? Long-term care type. If you have a long-term care situation, that's covered. It's included. It's a portion of your death benefit. They give you an advance on it. Why not have that taken care of instead of paying for that? You know, if you have the benefit, I mean, it's included in all these plans, these living benefits. And if you need the medical, severe, chronic, terminal type stuff, the funds are there. If you don't, you didn't pay for it. Why not have the benefit if you need it, but not have to pay for it? Doesn't that make sense? Oh, yeah. And, you know, lastly, I find that, and the statistics show this to be very true too, most people are vastly, in the U.S., vastly far underinsured to what they actually need for their loved ones. Why not have a death benefit there to take care of your loved ones, or if you are married, your spouse, to supplement or replace an income, for example, if something happened to either you prematurely? You know, even in retirement, if somebody passes away prematurely, probably a Social Security benefit's going to be lost or reduced, right? If not other things. My point is, why not look at this, run the numbers, compare. And if you've looked at recent, let's compare, and I'll show you better numbers than you probably have. I do this all the time. Contact us at yourpersonalbank.com. Love to talk to you about it. And as always, stay tuned to the Your Personal Bank Show on Money Radio, 1510 AM or 105.3 FM.
Listen Tuesday at noon and Thursdays at 1 for more information on Your Personal Bank. Contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.